Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to talk some SLIAC Softball, 1990s All-Decade Team. We are joined once again by Terry Logue, SLIAC Hall of Famer, Westminster admin, SID, radio host. He did it all. So he's going to join us and talk a little SLIAC Softball today. Terry, first thing I wanted to mention or ask you about is Maryville University back in the 1990s. What can you tell us about that program?
Well, Maryville won 4 league titles and a tournament title, and their coach was Lonnie Folks, who I mentioned previously in women's soccer. He was a 2-time coach of the year. Just did a great job, putting Maryville women on the map.
That's right. And a unique feat about this all decade for softball is that there was a 3-way tie for coach of the year for the decade, which means that there was balance across the league. Can you tell us about a couple of other coaches in the league that had success with their programs? Sandy Krieglow of McMurray and Laura Small of Fontbonne.
Yeah, Sandy was a 2-time coach of the year, as was Laura Small at Fontbonne. McMurray started making some inroads in the conference. They had some great players. A newcomer of the year in '97 was Holly Wachtel, and she was a 3-time first-team all-conference performer. And then Fontbonne came along, and they won a couple of league titles and a tournament title. And the great thing about Laura Small, I have to tell you, I knew her from my days at Columbia College. She was an All-American catcher on a team at Columbia College that got to be number 1 in the country. So she was pretty good and very knowledgeable lady on the diamond.
It sounds like it. From player to coach, had success. Terry, as you look down this all-decade list of names for the players, who are some players that really stand out to you?
Well, I'm kind of going down here alphabetically, and there's Holly Bryant of Westminster, a 3-time first-team all-conference performer. There's Stephanie Hope from Blackburn, a 4-time all-conference performer, seasoned stolen base leader still. You've got Beth Lunty, I think it's Lunty from Greenville. She was a first-team all-conference performer, player of the year in '97. She was a heck of a hurler. Robin MacArthur, a 4-time first-team all-conference performer from Westminster. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Diana Pinkley from Fontbonne, 4-time first-team all-conference player. She still holds a number of records, and she's plastered all over the record book in the top 10. She was quite a pitcher. And I need to mention, though, that later in her career, she was coached by her dad, who was a longtime coach at Fontbonne. There's a few other players that we need to mention. Jamie Wickers of Maryville, 3-time all-conference performer, the newcomer in '96, and Jean Zess from Webster. We didn't say much about Webster, but late in the decade, Webster came on and went to the NCAA a couple of times in '98 and '99. I believe they're the first conference schools to make the big dance.
Right. You mentioned there was Zess, and she, I know, partnered up with Katie Maynard around that same time to really, put the Gorlocks on the map there.
Well, and one other thing too, and because I don't want to deprive these people of their recognition, Beth Lunty of Greenville, Diana Pinkley of Fontbonne, Diane Woolfolk of Blackburn, and Jean Zess of Webster, they're all in the Conference Hall of Fame. So they made an impact in their respective sport.
For sure, definitely. And then finally, there's one player I wanted to ask you about before we wrap it up. One of those unique, we've seen it a couple times, Jeff Reese over at Webster, where players play 2 sports and they're on both all-decade teams. This one I wanted to ask you about from Principia College, Joanna Beckstrom on softball. She was also on volleyball. What do you remember about Joanna over at Principia?
Well, Joanna was just one of those great athletes. She was a 2-time all-conference performer. And you know, when a team does not always have to have a good win-loss record to win the championship for a player to be recognized. And she was one of those players that stood out. She was just a good athlete.
Well said, Terry. Well, thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to speaking with you again next week.
I'll be here.